Hi, I'm Kodi Hutchinson, professional bass player in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I play upright and electric bass, and I play pops with the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. I also play with the Calgary Jazz Orchestra, and I play with a number of artists touring and recording around Canada in jazz and other styles. I am going to follow up in this video with something that has to do with a question I get asked when I go to a lot of different schools, even when I work with professional bass players, how to make walking bass lines. The previous video in this series was called Bassline Building Blocks for Beginners. If you haven't seen that, go check it out because we're going to use the pieces from that video in order to do what we're going to do today, which is create walking bass lines over an F blues and get some ideas to start moving forward to create some more meaningful bass lines for you in the future. And the nice thing about this is these pieces will give you the right notes to start not only this, but to move forward and create bass lines in not only jazz, but all kinds of different genres, as these notes really apply to everything. What we're going to do is we're going to go through three concepts today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about how chords work because, well, bass lines, chords, they're tied together. Next, we're going to have some rules for making bass lines, some of the rules that I show my students, and then we go from there. And then finally, we're going to do a few techniques to create bass lines over this F blues, which will then translate to other chord systems and songs that you might be looking at. Chords, let's start there. So chords for bassists. Now, as a single note instrument, when I'm playing one note at a time, I find the easiest way to understand chords is to start looking at scales that you might know. Now, this lesson is geared more towards musicians in school band programs, such as junior high, high school, that type of thing. So the scale that you would most know is B flat major, and that's the scale that I dealt with in the previous video. So check that out, and you've got that for this lesson. But when we have the scale in our hands, then we can start to think about the arpeggio. Now, classical players know the arpeggio as the first note of the scale, the third note, the fifth, and then the root on top. In jazz, we go a bit further than that. We like to play the root, the third, the fifth, and the seventh. In case of B flat major, root 3, 5, 7. That gives us arpeggio. Now, when you hear a piano player or a guitar player, all they're doing is they're taking combinations of that note and playing them all at once, and that gives you a nice, rich, full chordal sound. To see where chords are used in jazz music, here's what we call a lead sheet. This song that you're looking at right now happens to be a basic blues called Bag's Groove. Now you can see the chords and the melody on this sheet, but obviously there's no walking bass line. And quite often this is what we're handed as musicians to work from, so you have to create those lines yourself. Now the nice thing about this chart is that it only has three chords: F7, B flat 7, and C7. Chord symbols in this song are all what we call seven chords or dominant chords, and they all have a very specific scale that goes with them, as do all chords. Today we're just going to deal with this scale. Now here's a real easy way to make the chords from this song. In my previous video we worked on B flat major 7, so we're going to start there. How do you make B flat major 7 turn into a B flat 7 chord? There's a couple of ways to do it. The easiest way I find for beginning bass players is take the scale you know, B flat major. So you've got that. And then what you do is you just take the seventh note and lower it a half step, or in our case, one finger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to drop it one finger. So instead of an A, we now have an A flat. So here's our B flat C, D, E flat F, G. Now, if you know the song Pretty Woman, there is the bass line. So a simple way to make a 7 chord is take your major scale, drop the seventh note, one fret, one semitone, one halftone, however you think about it. So let's do that with F7 as well. So we play our F major scale, which happens to be, fortunately, the same shape as our B flat major scale, if you know that shape. 1, 4, open, 1, 4, open, 2, 4, or F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the seventh note, the E, and drop it one note. So 1, 4, open, 1, 4, open, 1, 4. It's simple as that. Root 3, 5, 7. Then we do the same thing with the C chord, or the C scale. You take C major, which has no sharps or flats, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. To make it a 7, we lower the 7th note, which is B, to a B flat. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C. There. 7 chords. That's what they are. So if you're not into scales, well, this is your time to start, especially if you're going to create walking bass lines. Okay, so let's talk about some rules for making walking bass lines. So in my previous building blocks video, we had 5 ideas that I created over B flat major. So if you've checked that out, I didn't really give any rules or reasons why I created those lines. And so now I'm going to. They're obviously over the B flat major scale, but if you take a look back at all of them, you'll see a lot of arpeggio notes or chord tones, roots, 3, 5s, and 7th, which I've circled here. Now I know no one really likes rules too much, but the good things about the rules I'm about to show you is that you'll begin to break them almost immediately in creating bass lines. So 1, focus on using notes from the chord tones, root, 3, 5, 7. We've got that. Great. When possible, place your chord tones on beats 1 and 3 of each bar. So 4 beats, beat 1 and 3. That's where our ear hears the harmony, and that's a great way to help out the other musicians to know where the chords are. Then next, the more arpeggio notes you use in a bar, the stronger your bass line will sound. So if you play a bad bar, follow it up with a bar with a lot of chord tones. Even roots or roots and fifths. That'll bring everyone back on track. Now here's a very important rule. When possible, avoid playing the 4th note in each scale when you first start doing this. And the reason for that is you'll find that chords, the way they work in music, is they go up in what we call fourths. And the fourth note of that scale can indicate to inexperienced players that they're moving early. They're kind of like lemmings. They'll just follow you to the next chord early. They'll go over the cliff. So you have to be really careful about that. Now, finally, keep it simple. If you get lost, go to the roots or go to the roots and the fifths. That'll make sure that you're fine, right? Just go here. That's the function of the bass. Outline the root motion and then the chords. Everyone will feel more comfortable. All right, now, I know that some other professional bass players, if they're watching this, will have some opinions on these rules or have their own or different thoughts about this type of walking bass method. I'm not talking to you. Who I'm talking to is the young bass players who are saying, how do I start this? This is an easy way to start. Let's do a few techniques to start walking bass over the blues. So first, we're going to take those 5 building blocks that I've created in the previous video, and we're going to now convert and transpose them over the F blues. I'm going to show them on the screen so you can see them. I'm not going to go too much more in depth. There's just 5 blocks. I'm going to play each one in order now. So here they are starting over F7. Now here they are over B flat 7. Finally, here they are in C7. Now hearing all 3 of the different chords, hopefully you noticed that the 7th note on one of those shapes was changed on all of them to make them 7 chords. And just like the previous lesson, those ideas that we just played, now you can plug and play them over the chords in the blues. When you see the chord symbol at the top of a line and there's no other chord symbol after it, it means you just keep playing. So for example, in the blues, first 4 bars, F7, you just keep playing an F7, and you can plug and play over those 4 bars the different ideas from F7. Then we get to the next chord, B flat 7. We can plug and play there. So forth and so on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just start with playing roots and fives. And this is the simplest thing to do. This is a good way to just get used to reading chords and moving through chord changes. So you just got to hear walking over roots and fives. Here we are taking the second idea from my modular bass lines where we played root 3, 5, 3. Next up, root, second, 3, 5. Now this next one, the fourth idea, it is the easiest one to hear. So when you use this, it does stick out. So you have to be careful. Certain lines you pick will have a bit more grab on your ear than other ones. This is where we walk down from the top of the scale. All right, and finally, here's the fifth idea over the blues. This is root 5, 3, 5 over all of the chords. So now you've heard all of those different versions of the modular line over the music. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just listen so that you can now hear the chord changes. I'm just going to play roots so you can understand how it sounds if you just land on the root and go to a safe place if you get lost. It still outlines the purpose of the song. Okay, so that was the roots. Another way to get started on walking bass lines in this modular way is take one idea and play it the start of every phrase. And so in this case, we'll say every 2 bars, what we're going to do is we're going to play root, root, 5, 5. Then what we'll do is we'll try and grab one other piece and we'll stick it into the next bar. So in this case, we're going to play the first idea in the first bar, then the second idea in the second bar. And then in the third bar, we'll play root, root, 5/5. Then the fourth bar, we're going to play the third idea, and so forth and so on. So here it goes. Okay, so now we've done that, what we're going to do is we're going to mix and match. We're not going to worry about where we start on any bar. We're just going to mix and match the 5 ideas over the F blues. Here's how it sounds. Okay, the question I have for you is, did that sound okay? Did it sound like a walking bass line? For some of you, not complex enough. But for many of you, this is going to be your first real, wow, okay, that works. And I can plug and play these ideas. I just have to remember, in the case of this, 15 ideas. 5 ideas for each chord. And when you see the C7 chord, it only happens once every pass through the form. Well, hey, that's not so bad. You don't have to do too much thinking on that chord. So here's what we're going to do next, is we're going to do a bit of a revised version. So here's what we were just playing. Now here's a new version of it where I've just shifted a couple of notes to try and smooth out the line. One of the things I've done in here as well is you can move the roots. They don't always have to start on the bottom. They can go up to the top octave. So for example, we have a low F. We could play, instead of this, we can play this in our lines. So think about that. You can start moving these lines. Another way to do it. So here we go. Here's the revised version of what you just heard. Okay, so we've done that. Now finally, I really suggest that you start playing around. Take these ideas and start playing around. Start moving some notes in the scale. And then also you can start playing with some ideas such as passing tones and that type of thing. What a passing tone is, a chromatic note that's not in the scale, but it drives us to our new destination. I'm going to play you one more line here. It has a little bit of different notes picked in here just to see that you can start shaping this a bit more and make it feel a bit more melodic. Now, hopefully that line sounded a bit better than the others. By shifting the notes, your ears hear where we're going a little bit better. Now, you want to be strong on your lines, help the other musicians find where they're going, and outline the chords. That's the purpose of these bass lines. Hopefully this was a good primer for you on how to start approaching walking bass lines using these bass line building blocks, as I call them. And really, the world is your oyster as far as it goes from creating bass lines. There's so many different ways to do it. Go check out some masters, go do those type of things. Paul Chambers, Ray Brown, Ron Carter, lots of modern players as well you can check out. And there's lots of books, videos online. Start exploring this. This is a big topic. Every bass player, we spend a lot of time doing it. And it's something that once you get into it, it's a lot of fun. So thanks again for joining me. Thank you very much to CADME for making this possible. Go check them out. They do some great educational videos in the Calgary area. And now it's online, so around the world. Have a great one. Keep walking.